go live because we're super late. We're like 8 minutes late. I think they stop us. Nope, we're live. We're good.
Whoa!
That's right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Good Life Visual Audio Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, C. Muzan. I got Coach here in the building. Say what's up, Coach.
What up, dude? Yeah. That might have been a record right there.
That could have been, man.
Hey,
Your breath work. You've done well.
that's right. Paying off. Paying off.
It absolutely has. It absolutely has. We appreciate everybody joining us. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of you. We appreciate you tapping in with us here at The Good Life. Again, what we are here to do is talk about those topics around health and wealth, those two areas of our life that if we continue to grow and improve, we're going to be able to see some major results and ultimately design our ideal life, right? Design the life we don't need a break from. And so that's what we're here to do. So we appreciate all you that are leaving comments, that are engaging with us, that are asking us questions. If you, again, have not jumped into our Facebook group, go ahead and jump into our Facebook group. That's where Kabi and I are dropping more and more content. We have a mini series that we're doing weekly starting in the month of September. So if you are not in there, go ahead and do yourself a favor and jump in our Facebook group. It's going to completely bless your life around these areas, these topics of health and wealth. But outside of that, man, how was your week?
Week has been great. Yeah, a little. Nah, it feels about right. I was gonna say a little long, but I didn't realize that's probably a lie. But it feels about right. It feels about right. How about yours, bro?
The week has been good. The week has been good. Feels like the summer's wrapping up a little bit. Feels like the summer's kind of winding down. I'm trying to spend more time outside, cherishing that sunlight, that good old vitamin D.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I forget you're over there in Philly.
what does that mean? I'm
Huh?
not. What does that mean? I'm not.
Well, I was looking forward to a couple more months of summer over here. So
Either way, those of us that can adapt to the changing in seasons, right? We are the ones
wow.
that are moving this country forward from an emotional standpoint, from an EQ standpoint. We know how to regulate our emotions because as the seasons change, so can we. All of you other folks that are only privy to 2 seasons of
Excuses for poor location decisions. That's all. It's all right, brother.
Listen, everybody's got to live somewhere, man. You got to go somewhere. What's up in Detroit? Is Detroit? I sent you some Detroit news. I feel like I sent you a TikTok with some Detroit news.
You did. Honestly, I did not watch it yet. I saw the cover and I knew the level of foolishness that was going to come up. I couldn't do that to especially right before the show, man. I couldn't destroy it, no, I couldn't do that, man. But we'll explain it actually, if you will.
I don't even remember it, man. I see so much stuff. I just know when I was thinking about it, you popped in my mind and I sent it to you, but I don't even remember what it actually was. But we'll figure it out. I'm sure. I've been seeing more and more Detroit news. Oh, that's what it was. I think I found the guy that rates the 1-star restaurants. That's what it was.
Oh, yes.
I came across his profile and I sent it to you. I think his name is Eddie Eats or something like that. Came across this champion. Go ahead and put a clip up here, Ash. I think we did this last week, but let's just give this guy his love, man. Detroit showing up, 1-star ratings. Why go with the flow and only rate the best restaurants when you can go against it and you can push and be different and be special and unique and only rate the worst restaurants out there? Shout out to this guy in Detroit.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. Great idea. I'm sure the execution was on point because he is a Detroit native. And I'm going to watch it right after the show.
As you should. But let's dive in. This is the part of our show we call 2x2.
2x2.
That's right. This is where Coach and myself give you our 2-minute take on a topic that you've possibly heard of or have seen, and you get our 2 minutes on it. So here it is this week. Michael Oher, is that how you say the name? Is it
I think
Oher?
it's
Oher?
or.
Or? Because both
Or.
of these, in all honesty, both of the names in the story I can't say, right? Or troubling. So Michael Orr, the NFL player whose story inspired The Blind Side, has raised allegations against the Toohey family featured in the film. Oher claims they set up a conservatorship to benefit from his name and image. He's now petitioning to dissolve it, stating that he's capable of managing his affairs independently. The Tooheys, however, deny profiting from the movie and say that the conservatorship was established to meet NCAA requirements. What's going on here, Coach?
Well, first of all, what are these NCAA requirements that they're talking about? What? And I actually, you know what? I was gonna go in a totally different direction with this 2x2 until that last piece right there about a conservatorship established to meet NCAA. What requirements? How? Well, that makes no sense whatsoever. First of all, the NCAA doesn't even run college football whatsoever. It really has nothing to stand on. If we've seen anything in terms of people leaving and them whatever divisions they're in, and then they can't do it. They basically can't do much about it. They have no leg to stand on. That's insane. Now, I'm not going to comment on the whole, this is a trap. People are going to get me in the whole racial conversation. That's not where I want to go. I'm just focusing on what leg does the NCAA have to stand on to require a conservatorship of anybody? What? That sounds like a lie to me. I'm going to go on the record and say that sounds weird. That sounds like a lie. If that is true, then we really should be looking at the NCAA and be like, wait, what? It makes no sense. Also, free Britney.
Just had to throw in that free Britney at the end. Shout out to Britney Spears on the conservatorship. Yeah, so to your point and to that point, I don't understand how the NCAA gets involved in this. I can see them being like a little bit of a scapegoat, possibly not really the NCAA, just the people around managing them at that time or advising them at that time about what could be best, possibly. I'm not sure about this story for a couple reasons. One, I didn't see the movie. I know of the movie, but some of y'all know I'm not a movie person. I don't really care too much about movies in general, albeit fiction or not nonfiction. So I didn't even see the movie, but I can imagine, or maybe not, that they weren't expecting to make a movie out of this story when it happened, right? When the conservatorship happened, when they were saving this young man's life or giving him an opportunity or however the story played out. I don't think, and again, I don't know these people, but I don't think that they were just open to monetize. Their plan wasn't to monetize this right away. Like, oh, let's bring this kid in and then let's give this story to make a movie because we're such good people. Like, I don't think that was the plan. So whatever was set up, if it was a conservatorship setup, I'm sure it was in the best interest of all the parties at that time. Whose idea it was or why, I don't know, but this just seems a little bit like too little, too late for this Michael Oher character. not that he's a real human being. He's a real human being, but you know what I mean. He probably just saw the fact that the movie was super successful and that he thinks he deserves a piece of that because it's based on his life. But
why would that be in question? Why would they fight that? You know what I mean? So if you didn't intend to profit initially and now there is profit, why would you be greedy about it? Or I don't know what the situation is. It just seems a little weird to me that there should be even any conversation about a conservatorship at this point in this man's life, right? Why? Like, He can't run his own affairs?
That's also true. That's also true. But we don't have the we don't have the details of this conservatorship. We don't have the details of
Michael, please have your people contact our people. We need you on the show to explain explain the situation. And also the Tooheys. Is it the Tooheys?
Tooheys.
Yeah, the Toohey family. You're also welcome on the show to give your side of the story, because we are not journalists. However, we are still responsible reporters and distributors of content.
We would love to hear both sides of the story. Both
You're
sides
welcome.
of the story.
You can have the full hour if you wish. You can have the full hour. We'll go Oprah style.
We might even give you the extra 15 minutes. Who knows? Who knows? But we would appreciate you jumping on, right? Because this is an interesting conversation. Obviously, we don't have all the details, but again, good old saying we have here on The Good Life: follow the money.
Follow the money.
That's right.
Those that are live on Instagram can see right now that I got my Follow the Money shirts on. You know, this is original, by the way. This is not bot. This is original.
Listen,
original work of art.
I need one of those, bro. Come on. What's going on?
I've been holding out.
What's going on? You didn't even tell me that.
Yeah, the Follow the Money shirts. They're live. Here's the official announcement. The Follow the Money shirts are live. If you want one, you know where to get at coach.khabib. I haven't actually decided to sell them, to be honest. So
I just forced you into saying this.
Yeah, so I felt pressured. I was on camera. I felt the need to act cool, and that's what it was. Please forgive me.
But for real, I need one of those. But follow the money. Why do we say it a lot here on the show? Because it'll lead you to a lot of answers. It'll lead you to a lot of answers, right? The things that are perplexing you, the things that you think are missing in the stories that you're thinking about. Follow the money. So who has the incentive financially? Who's benefiting financially? That's normally a guiding, something that could guide you to some of the facts or some of the truth in a situation. This situation, no different.
OG.
Talk to me.
I usually shouldn't do this. And whenever I do this, I get in trouble, but I'm going to do it anyway. Listen, I got a bright idea. Okay. Follow the Money shirts to be sold. And it's given. We're going to give the proceeds to the JRL Academy.
Let's
Jalen
go.
Rose Leadership Academy. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Listen, we're gonna get these shirts up on some website. We're gonna have it somewhere.
If it's too much work, we probably won't do it.
But we're gonna fight to give you the opportunity to buy one of these shirts so that we can send some proceeds over to Uncle Jalen and his foundation, man. Yes, we're serious about that.
Support. Actually. If you're on Instagram and you would buy a Follow the Money shirt so we can give some money for children, good students to be educated. Well, whether good or not doesn't really matter. But for the students to be given the opportunity to be properly educated at the Jalen Road Leadership Academy.
That's right. My guy Shad over here on Instagram is definitely buying one. He already knows, right? Follow the money. Follow the money.
Let's go.
Make it happen. But yeah, good stuff. Let's dive into the show. Let's dive into what we came to talk about today. Because again, important topics we're trying to bring to you, important conversations you are possibly having, thoughts you are possibly having currently around these areas of health and wealth, our health, our wellness, let's just say, and then our financial wellness.
Yes, sir.
Right? Those two areas. So today we're going to have a conversation around something that skews a little bit more into the financial side, but obviously has parallels in all these areas, especially in our health. But we're going to talk about that conversation around college. We've had it a few times here on the podcast, and some of you that have been following us and engaging and part of the community, we've debated this a few different times and just kind of talked about the different perspectives on the side. But having this conversation around college, and is it still worth the investment? You, as Khabib and I were talking off camera, like to kind of think about what we were talking about today. This was important because student loan repayment is going to start to come back into play. in about a month or so, depending on when you're listening to this, right? Sometime in October, all of these student uh, loans that have been on deferment or deferment, they're going to kick back in and we're going to start owing that money. So then it goes back to that old conversation of, man, is this good debt? Like, did we make the right decision? Was this a smart investment? And I think we're still in this process of debating that for parents that are have their kids going to college, or they're thinking about college, or just the actual young adult that's thinking about college. I think there's some things that we can really talk through on this one. So I'm gonna toss it to you, Coach. Just kind of kick it off with, like, why are we even having this conversation? Why do people go to college? What's this college stuff about?
What's this college stuff about? Well, let me tell you what this college stuff is about.
Man, listen, we need to know what it's about, man. What's all this college
Uh,
malarkey? It's malarkey.
oh man, I think this is a very important conversation. If you have a young, I'm the oldest of five. I have young siblings. I think this is a conversation I've had with them. This is a conversation that we need to have more publicly. Because I feel like when I was going through the process of figuring out college, I didn't really get this side of the conversation. So what we're doing here, I hope it's not, people don't take it as we're anti-education. No, we're more so examining the pros and cons of the financial, social decision to attend a university here in America, to be specific, because it's also different systems in other places. So we're really just talking more specifically about this system and whether it's when is it a good idea and for whom, right? When is it a good idea and for whom, based on our experiences, or I'll say my experience. And of course, Chris can always speak for himself. But I think one of the main things that we look at, right, is in terms of why do people go to college, or why did I choose to go to a 4-year university and then really didn't consider any other options? Because so I'll start there. I think one of them is definitely parental pressure, and also in combination with I think a lot of people miss this, the kind of the pressure from the institution itself. Now, if you go to any good high school, any good program in that sense, rankings or whatnot, it matters to them whether or not you end up in college as well. Like, people don't talk about that. To state whether it's, let's consider even the private schools, but even public schools, right? How many of your students end up in a 4-year university is a metric that people look at to determine whether or not this is a good institution to invest in, to send my kid to, etc. Right? I remember thinking about that, but I would say the biggest one for sure, for me at least, was parental preference. Let's call it that, parental preference. My parents, being immigrants, felt like the way to kind of make it in the American system was first and foremost to be well educated, but educated in the sense of like going to a 4-year university and getting a 4-year degree and moving on from there. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, very similar. My mom obviously wanted me to go to college. She wasn't a stickler on like what I needed to do though. So there was definitely some parental pressure, but I actually resonate more with the school pressure. Right? I went to a private school, right? Penn Charter here in Philly, outside of Philly. It was really college prep school. So not only does the metric of how many of your students get into college matter, but what colleges they go to matters also. Right? So you get to the place of like, we have people that get into the Ivy Leagues, Penn and Yale and Harvard, right? And Dartmouth, and right, all of the ones, right? We have those. And those are the places that we want you to go, to the point that my mom recently told me this story a while, probably a few months back, that like some of you guys know, I went to culinary school, right? And for my smarts, I guess I could have probably made it into other colleges that were not culinary school, right? And done some other things. And because I chose culinary school, the advisors, right, the college counselors or whatever, would call my mom and ask like why I was trying to go to culinary school and not other schools. Like they're
Mm.
like, he could go somewhere, he could go to Penn, he could go to da da da, he could go to, and like they just really wanted to try to get me to go in this direction. But instead, I was like, no way, like Johnson and Wales University, like no one goes there, right? So there was even pressure on that side of like, you should even pick like a better college to go to, right? Like not even just going, but you should pick like the best ones or the good ones to go to. So definitely pressures from all different sides. The other thing that I also think is to one of the reasons why a lot of times people are choosing, what I see also is there is a confusion a lot of times around what the next steps are in somebody's life when they're 17 or 18. And if our society is pushing college, higher education, those things, then it could almost be like the default, right? It's not even that like you're pressured to, it's just almost like that's the norm. Like when, I don't know, but like when, 80%, 90% of all of your peer group are applying and going to college, it's almost just like, all right, well, I don't really know what I want to do, but I guess I'll go do this, right? So I think those are some other reasons why people are really out there choosing college. I think it's a mixture of a lot of those things.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on. And one thing I'll add from that perspective and also beyond is whether it's true or not, it's perceived opportunities, increased opportunities for financial advancement. So
Yeah.
it used to be that a man there could be a one income household, usually a man uh, without a college education could go get a job that will provide enough money for the entire family, and they would be fine. Then it became, to do that, you now need to go to, a 4-year university. Now it's almost as if like the 4-year university is like the bare minimum, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Or at least that's what we're led to believe
Right.
that that's true. At least that's I definitely felt like that's the bare minimum. And if you do anything less, like you better have another plan as to how you're going to essentially monetize and take care of yourself and and your family. Uh,
It's totally true though, right? Like it's just
yeah.
like having that alternative. But to that point, I don't think like we factor in like the cost of going to school. Like I think while we're out there kind of figuring out what our next steps are, I think there's a lot of maybe the word's deception, maybe it's misinformation, maybe it's lack of information on exactly what the costs are of college or going to a university. Because specifically, like even going through the process myself, like I don't really remember numbers like that at
At
17
all.
at all. Like filling out applications and picking colleges. I'm sure I looked at a brochure at some point or some number at some point, but it really didn't register with me when I'm filling out FAFSA and going through the process. Like I'm not thinking this is in the five figures of of per semester or per year. I'm not thinking that, or maybe I'm just oblivious to it. So like, do you think people that are enrolling, like the kids, do you think they understand the cost and know what the costs are?
Of course not. Of course not. At that age, I mean, most people, particularly now, more and more, have done a day of work, paid work, right? They
Mhm.
can't do a day of paid work, or they haven't done a day of paid work and they haven't earned any money. So they really have no context to even place $30,000 a year or $60,000, all right? And in a way, now I know this is tough, but in a way, I think this is analogous to doctors taking advantage of injured patients and overprescribing certain things from painkillers to other drugs that will get them paid a little bit more because you're kind of taking advantage of the situation in the sense of like students don't really know. right? They don't really have so if their parents aren't educated enough or don't just know enough, haven't had that experience as well, then where are they going to pull that from? So, and also we can't forget this piece of it. I think this is probably the biggest piece right here, is that in conjunction with the government, the college debt situation is it's essentially another giant pitfall of life, right? That if you can avoid, you'll be much better off. Essentially what's happened is, and the same thing, whether you look at mortgages, whether you look at, it's kind of the same thing. The government has subsidized, right, in such a way that now colleges can go and charge these absurd costs to students in a vulnerable position. And in a way, and students then take out these loans that are what, guaranteed for life. Like they're the only loans that can't be forgiven, or they follow you after death. Correct me if I'm wrong, money man.
Yeah, right? You can't get rid. You can't be discharged in bankruptcy, right? So they can't be discharged in bankruptcy. And if you are married and you incurred that student loan debt after you were married, it passes on to your spouse.
Wow. Right? So here we have this like unique type of debt,
right,
that's being freely charged to a vulnerable population in a vulnerable situation. Wow. I mean, the more absurd we talk about this, it's almost criminal.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
It's almost criminal.
Listen to some of these numbers. The average cost of just college in the United States, about $36,000 a year, about 36 grand a year for the average college in America. If it's a state public 4-year state institution, it's about 26,000. Average private, like nonprofit university, is $55,000 a year. Right.
And a lot of colleges that were considered, good and higher are in that 55 plus category.
That's right. That's right. So at the end of the day, right, like looking at the numbers of how much kids are paying just to go to school for 1 year. Think about that. $55,000 a year. What do you get back from that? Right? Like what do you get back from 55 grand a year? That's $250,000, $220,000, $10,000.
Well, go. I mean, beyond that, brother. Look, considering student loan interest and loss of income, the ultimate cost of a bachelor's degree can exceed $500,000.
It's wild.
Most will never even spend that much on a house.
Not at all.
Right? Most will never spend that on a house. So it's crazy because really, when you look at it, we have a financial cost, but you also have to consider the time aspect as well. I have, if you want to become a medical student, if you want to go into law, if you want to do any of that stuff, you're looking at what, 6? I mean, medical is like could be up to 10 plus, right? So that time is huge. And when you're finally finished and you have your golden handcuffs earning how much ever you're earning, now it's time to pay back that $200,000-$300,000.
Yeah.
Because most people don't have $200,000-$300,000 for education. That's just not the normal setup. Right? So most of this is in loans. Has to be.
That's so true. It's funny. I haven't talked about it a ton, but they're going through this whole student loan forgiveness process, and Biden, I think they just approved 39 billion of it to be forgiven over about 800,000 borrowers, right? But when you dive into the details of it, the specific borrowers that are getting forgiven are the ones that have been paying their loans for 20 to 25 years already.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a joke.
No, like the only people that are there's 800,000 people in our country that have been paying for their student loans for 20 to 25 years. They were supposed to get some form of the forgiveness, the public service forgiveness, or right, like you've been paying it, and they slipped through the cracks, and they've been paying on their loans for 20 to 25 years. Those are the only people that right now are the ones actually getting some form of forgiveness, as they should.
Oh man.
As they should. 20 years of a pay. That's a mortgage. They've been paying for a mortgage. I hope they had some good. I hope it was some good education, man. I hope, again.
Oh man, how great is your income if you haven't been able to pay that off?
Look, shout out, yo, listen, shout out to Aaron. Shout out to Aaron saying he's been paying or in default for 20 years. How wild is this?
Wow. Wait, does that mean you fall into that? He falls into that category?
He might. Aaron, you might, brother. We might have to have a conversation. Like you might be getting, if you still have if you still have those student loans, you might be in the default. They might be wiping those out potentially. So I don't know.
Crazy.
We'll get you some details, but again, the cost. If you're going for a 2-year associate, a 4-year bachelor, a 6 years for your master's, 8 years for a PhD, or we know people on their second, third, fourth masters, right? Like there's people that just keep going back to get them. At some point, you got to be like, hey, what's the cost? Kabir just told you, right? Some time. We just talked about some money, but really you got to evaluate, what is the cost?
And the one we can't forget is the one that for some people is a silent killer, right? And that's those bad habits Kanye talked about. And college dropout. That's those bad habits that you now can't fund. All right. Oh man. And the one that's robbed you of your health, robbed you of your finances. All right. That's the one. Hey, listen, as my uncle will say, what's understood don't need to be said. But sometimes it does. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So that's the one, and that's also the one that they don't really tell kids about. They might tell them, hey, don't drink and don't do these things, but like it's something sneak up to the left, sneak up to the right on you, right?
The influence in college is high, right? You pick up a lot of things when you're exposed to a lot of thmost. So
even sleeping habits, right? It doesn't even have to be drugs, etc. Even sleeping habits.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the most unhealthy time of your life, to the point now where we're freshman 15 is just like a thing.
Yeah. And think about that. Think about that. That's so funny that you would bring that up. The freshman 15 is a real thing. Why is that a thing? Because we step out of our home environment and we just do all the most unhealthy stuff. We stay up late, we eat bad food, we drink, we consume bad stuff. Like freshman 15 is literally just us saying, adapting to the change in our lifestyle for the worse, like for the negative side, right? Like we don't go to college and get better habits typically, which is really funny to think about, right? Like we're actually going there, we're picking up some knowledge, some book smarts, and we're probably picking up worse personal habits that we're going to have to wind up shaking at some point in our life. So count the cost, guys.
Yes.
Count the cost.
But we're not all negative here. We've got some pros, right? Some positives of going to college. You get the quote unquote network, you get the connection, you might have a brand. Going to Harvard is not the same as going to, state. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Just Harvard on your
Central Michigan. It's not the same.
They got a good football team though, don't they?
I'm sure, but
yeah, I'm just saying. I may have seen them on Netflix show. Oh no, that was the junior college. That was JUCO. Never mind.
Yeah, don't give them that much credit.
Yeah, it was JUCO.
But all that being said, the brand matters. Yeah, like where you go.
It does matter. It does matter. And as we know, we've seen it with actually there's another movie on this, right? We've seen parents who will pay for this. They will pay for the brand. All right.
Mhm.
Because honestly, sometimes the brand might be the most valuable thing you get there. It might
Mm.
be. Or the access to the community, access to whatever else it offers. Um, I'm formulating an opinion here that maybe I probably didn't agree with before I went to college. And that is one that, my parents may have told me, and I may have disagreed with them. If you're not going to medical school, engineering, law, finance, it's probably not worth it.
Mm.
Probably not
Mm.
worth it. Right. Yeah, I mean, let me know if you disagree. I mean, I'm open to correction. I just look at my classmates and friends now, and that's just what I see. Like, some of us would have probably been better off either choosing one of those or taking that 250,000 and starting a business or
That's right.
traveling or doing
Yeah,
something else, right? Something totally different.
that's right.
But here's the catch. Here's the catch. And this is what I'll throw at you, OG. Here's the catch. They'll give you $250,000 in debt to go to
Mm.
college, but
Mhm.
will they give you $250,000 to go start a business?
They will not.
Oh, why is that? And I think this is a critical point of understanding this entire piece and the decision process that we make. How can I, as a 17-year-old and nothing, get $250,000 in loans to go to college or university? But me, as a 35-year-old college educated individual, can probably not get 250,000 to start a business. And this is hilarious. This is something I talked to my chiropractor about. It's like it was easy to get a loan to go to chiropractic school, and then I came to open up my shop, and nobody would give me a loan.
Hmm.
How crazy is that?
It's wild. We've been tossing this around for some time. Goes back to the shirt. Just point at your shirt right now. Point at your shirt. Point
Right
at
here,
it.
ladies and gentlemen.
Point at it. There we go.
Follow
The
the
money.
money.
That's it. Follow the money. Listen, I have a feeling. I'm sure there's probably research on this. I just haven't dove deep enough into it, but it makes sense. The banks and the student loan companies, albeit private or the government, are all in bed together, right? Like
No question.
they all benefit from this. So that's why, because
Throw the mortgage people in there too.
they're the banks. Yeah, right. That's
Throw
true,
the
right?
insurance people in there too.
They're all in there, right? Like if you throw them all in there, you got to know like this is how it all works. The reason they can run it up together. The banks, the banks and these for-profit colleges, right? They can run it up together. They can run it up together. Basically, banks are going to loan a bunch of money, student loan, right? They're going to loan a bunch of money, and the money they know is going to go directly to the universities. Like it's not going to get diverted. It's not just fully given
Mm.
directly to the person so they can go off and do whatever. It's literally given directly to the university. Like that transaction right there has to let people know that they're communicating. They're
Have
like
to.
they have to, right? Like that just makes actual business sense. Right? Like over time, if I know that I'm giving the money to this middleman to go give it to you, eventually I'm just going to go talk to you and be like, hey, what do we got to do if I, and they're like, oh, well, I'll raise the tuition. Okay, well, we'll make it easier to get more money. Okay, well, we'll just keep raising the tuition. Okay. And then all of a sudden, now we have both of these entities that have built out this huge bubble. Yep. Built out this huge bubble. And who's losing? It's the
The students.
students. The
The
students.
students.
Right.
Same way the student athletes are losing, right?
Right.
But this is the interesting piece, OG. I think there's a third player in there that actually takes this to a whole new level,
Hmm.
and that's the government,
Yeah.
right? By making it so that who decided that student loans were the only ones that couldn't, and educate us one more time, the student loans are the only ones that couldn't.
They can't be charged off in bankruptcy, right? You can't get rid of them in bankruptcy. And if you get them after you're married, they pass on to your spouse, so they don't even go away when you die.
Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Why? And also why I believe they're I forget the term here. You can help us. But I believe it's like they're subsidized by the government, correct?
Yeah, these are like a lot. That's why in the student loan side, there's federal loans and there's private loans. Federal loans are backed by the government. These are
What does that mean?
that
I
means
mean,
that basically people borrowed money from the government to get like so they basically went through a bank in order and the government subsidized that transaction. So basically the bank would get reimbursed, right? The bank would get reimbursed if they defaulted on the loan, basically.
okay, so the
Because
bank
it
would get reimbursed. They
by
can't
the
be
government.
discharged or in bankruptcy. They can be passed on, right? So, if I'm in the if I'm in the business of education, higher education, if I'm in the business of making these loans, what's there's all the incentive in the world for us to run it up together,
That's right.
like you described. All the incentive in the world, and who interrupts this process? Right? Who interrupts this process? It's not parents, because
Nope.
we all feel like we gotta go and get it. Who actually interrupts this process? That's what's code. That's what's crazy.
There's no one there there's no checks and balance on this side. The only thing that would interrupt the process, this has actually been my thesis for a while about these student loans, is that like if we just choose not to pay them back, right?
Mhm.
If collectively, if we all could our collective $1.2 trillion of student loan debt we have in this country, if collectively we defaulted on it, like the government and the banks would take the hit.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? That I feel like those that really understand the situation know that that will never happen.
Exactly.
However, our own government is in a very similar situation, and they can make that happen. They can choose to just not pay it back. All right.
They
How
could, but
crazy is that?
but it is crazy that they're in that position. But again, they know that that's not going to be the answer either, right? Like they can't go that direction because that also affects the balance sheets of all these entities as well, right? Of just oh, we can't just wipe this away, right?
So
Because
as a result, what's happening right now is what's happening right now. And this may go over. This is probably going over a lot of people's heads, but that's all right. You know, this is for the true fans out there,
yeah.
right? It's the deep cuts. This is deep cuts, right? As a result, this is what's happening right here. Is that we are absolutely just blowing up in inflation because there is really no other way forward.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's deep cuts, ladies and gentlemen. If you rock with that, you rock with that. If you're not, that's all right.
That's all right. You'll catch up when you catch up. Outside of all this college stuff, man, like what's the alternative? Like
I wish as a student somebody had told me, there are alternatives. Now, I think the tricky thing is you're looking at, you go to college, you have all of this fun, you do all of this stuff that, quite frankly, is pretty appealing to young people and have been made appealing to young people, and you get that funded by the government, essentially, right? I'm not gonna lie, that sounds pretty appealing. Right? So I don't think anything we say today is going to shift anything. It might hopefully get to like one or two curious young individuals who they themselves will see what's going on and divert from this pitfall in life, both in terms of make at least make a more educated decision, because nobody else is talking about this. But you could, if you have access to any portion of that money, right, or can find a job, etc. I think traveling, right, fantastic option. I know a lot of or some students will go somewhere and work for in a period of time to gain experience. This is dead, but I've always spoken about this in terms of apprenticeships, right? We really bringing back not internships where you go sit there and not do anything, but apprenticeship where you actually get on the job experience. Like on the job experience is dead, right?
mm-hmm.
And this is one of the biggest issues about college is you come out of college and everybody that's hiring is looking for people with experience. and you can't get experience. So coming out of college, honestly, this is a very well-known thing. It's one of the most depressive things in the world. Why is that? You have this all of a sudden this utopia world that was created has been snatched, and then your options to integrate with the real world are very limited, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very jarring integration.
That's right.
Oh man, it's a tough situation, man. It's a tough situation.
It
But
is.
hopefully you can find an apprenticeship.
Listen, it is that apprenticeship is huge, and I don't know if we're past the point of like we would have to literally change the mindsets of this next generation of the youth. I don't even know what generation we're on. Like what generation what generation is the people born in 2012, right? They're 10 years old or whatever, 12 years old, who whatever generation that
I thought that's Gen Z. It's not Gen
is
Z.
that I feel like they're the next one after Z.
All right. So listen, these are two old heads talking. It's Uncle Talk right here. Uncle Talk.
But if you think about it, right, like whatever generation that is, generation that 12 and under, we have to shift the way that they think about some things. Like
Appreciate you, Pat. Yeah.
we have to for sure, man, we have to figure out kind of how to get people back to working. The reason why apprenticeships worked is because the apprentice didn't necessarily need or want the money. They wanted the skill set, right?
Mm.
There was a way of thinking like, go work with this person and learn everything they know. Don't worry about if they pay you or if your hours are good or if they make. And we're in a society right now with some of the Gen Zers that, and even some of the millennials that don't understand that concept of like,
Yeah.
I need to work with you just so I can learn what you're doing and get good at it. And I don't care about being paid. We don't have that mindset. And we have to get people to have that mindset for apprenticeships to work. And then the other side that you mentioned that again I hear as an alternative also is the traveling side. But a lot of times we don't have the courage. Our 18-year-olds in this country, most of them, the masses, the majority of them, don't have the courage to go travel on their own. They don't have the courage to.
Well, let's do this. Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Most don't also have the means.
Of course, right? That's very
Right.
true.
And
That's very
now,
true.
of course, you could be creative. There's some that did it in creative ways, etc. But it's the same thing. Like we got to also consider the quote unquote inflation issue in that it's pretty difficult to not make money for 5 years like it used to be. Right. It used to be that you would be able to go home or at least be able to take care of yourself. But now to go 5 years without making money, I mean,
Yeah.
this that's a tough way to exist in the current system,
That's
right?
true.
So there's a two pressure situation of, and I think it's leading to the same result though. It's leading to the same result, which is where we are now, quite frankly.
I agree. Aaron put it also in here. He's team trade school,
All day.
right? He's team trade school. Cheaper as statistics are showing, right? The trend is equally as beneficial. Listen, trade school, we hear a lot about
Get a
it.
skill.
Get
Might be the new way to get a skill, like you were saying, right?
it.
Like you pay a little bit less, you still get the skill,
Hmm.
but you get something going for yourself. Can roll.
I agree. I think we have a mindset issue with that one too. Maybe we save that for another
Oh,
episode.
absolutely.
But I think we have a mindset thing when it comes to trades and working with our hands. And I was talking to somebody about this too. They were running an HVAC company, and their number one thing was staffing. And
Mm.
he was like, we tell people, right? We tell these kids, we tell people in their 20s or right in their teens, like, hey, you can come here, work for 6 months, like start making 120,000 a year, start making 140,000 a year. And that sounds good until you got to be on a hot roof for 6 hours a day for 5 weeks, until you got to be in small spaces or something that's uncomfortable to like your living. then the money doesn't matter as much. And we're living through a time where people care about their quality of life and what they do for money a lot more than they did in the past. In the past, it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna, get this plumber thing, get this electrician thing. I make a good living, but I don't like this. Like, I'm not gonna enjoy being a plumber. Maybe somebody out there does, but I don't know many under 25s that are just like, that's what I've been born to do, is like, let me go be a plumber and be excited about this. There's a mindset thing there also that even pushes away from the trades that we got to, again, start teaching and learning how to overcome that if people really want to have an alternative to college.
It's true. It's true. Like a lot of things, this also comes down to mindset.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, OG, what do you have in terms of your last take from?
Yeah. My last take. Is college worth it? When I put these numbers together, when I count up all the costs, when I take a listen to these conversations, when I think back to my own college experience, right? Again, I'm associates in culinary arts, bachelor's food service management. My wife on the other side, bachelor's, couple master's degrees. So we understand the process. We get it, and we've gone through it. And yeah, we still got student loans, right? Like, we've kicked those down the road too, right? Like, it's just like everybody else. And when you count up the cost and you count up you weigh the benefits and all the stuff, it doesn't seem worth it. It doesn't seem worth it, especially in a 2023 setting. Yes, Art, I'm also a father, right? So, right, all these things come into play. But 2023, I don't think the numbers pan out. I don't think that average cost of college of $36,000 a year or whatever it is, you times that by 4 to go to a 4-year college, right? You're talking $150,000 over 4 years. The question is, could that 150,000 be deployed to help our youth, our child, our 18-year-old become more successful in that same 4-year period, set them up better in that same 4-year period than it would going to an institution? My answer to that is going to be a resounding yes. Like, I just think that money could be better spent somewhere else, with the caveat of what you said, right? Finance, engineering, law, medicine. Outside of those, college ain't worth it. That's my take.
It's not a bad take. I will say, like most things in life, it depends. All right. So I can't say yes or no because it really depends. What degree is it that you're pursuing? Do you have a clear picture as to what it is that you want to do with it? If you don't have a clear understanding of those things, spending that level of money, $200,000, $300,000 to explore may not be the best option, especially considering the source of where that money is coming from. Now, I do understand that it's not an equivalent of like, well, spend 200,000 going here or 200,000 going here, because for most people, going here means they can actually access that 200,000 in the form of debt, and going here means that they can't actually access any form of money, so they actually got to go to work, right? Or they actually got to go do something. But doing that hard work up front of figuring out what it is that you're actually going to do, trying things out without spending $200,000, and getting an apprenticeship, or finding a way to get an internship, or finding a way to get experience so you could figure yourself out as a person, as in what you like to do and what you don't like to do, before you apply or before you go through the process of school, if it is the correct path for you, because you've decided that you want to go down a path that requires you to do that, then I think it makes a lot of sense. But the problem here comes down to something we always talk about, which is education and awareness, and not education in terms of going to school, but true education of how the system works. And unfortunately, we're not going to be getting that from the schools that are benefiting off of the situation. And that's why you come to shows like this, and we will keep bringing you that stuff. Make sure you check us out. Join the Facebook group, right? Come here every Wednesday. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right, you like the pauses right there, right? Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll keep bringing this stuff up because honestly, we need to talk about this more. Not enough people are having this conversation. Send this to a young person who's in the process of deciding or going through this process, and maybe it'll cause them to at least be a little bit more awake than we were when we were going through that process.
That's right. That's right. All we want is the awareness. Just be a little bit more aware. Look at the numbers, scrutinize it a little bit more critical thinking before you make that decision. Because despite what your college counselor, the government, your parents, anyone says, it is a big decision to take on a few $100,000 in debt to get an education. That's it.
To get a degree, but you may not be educated. All right.
Touche.
Thank you for your time. Until next time.